My next guest tonight is the chair of the House Freedom Caucus, very influential on Capitol Hill among Republicans. He initially endorsed Governor DeSantis last May before DeSantis actually even got into the race. And yesterday, just moments after DeSantis dropped out, Congressman Bob Good tweeted, "It is my privilege to provide my complete and total endorsement for Donald J. Trump as the 47th President of the United States." And Virginia Congressman Bob Good is here. Congressman, thank you for joining us here on The Source tonight. As I noted, you initially backed DeSantis in this race. You had concerns about Trump's electability in the general election. Now that you've endorsed Trump, do you still have those concerns tonight?
I think President Trump is going to win the nomination as soon as tomorrow, as you noted. I think he's going to sail to the nomination. Republicans across the country and many independents, moderate swing voters are rallying behind him. Everyone is worse off today than they were 3 years ago when Joe Biden was president. President Trump gave us one of the strongest economies we've ever had. We had record low unemployment, record low inflation, record low interest rates, real wages rising. American was energy independent on its way to energy dominance. We had the strongest military that was respected in the world, and no one wanted to challenge us. That's why we didn't get any conflicts when he was president. And Americans are hungry for that again. I think they recognize how much we've suffered under this president. They connect it to the terrible policies. And so you're seeing Republicans and many others rallying behind President Trump. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that he's elected.
Well, you mentioned energy dominance. I should note the U.S., of course, right now, as you know, Congressman, is producing more oil than any country in history ever has. But you said that you do believe he's going to sail
That's in
to the
spite of this
Republican.
president's policy.
You said you did say that he's going to sail to the Republican nomination. But do you think that Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden in a general election matchup?
Well, you would hope that it wouldn't even be close. You wonder how it could even possibly be close. How could anybody vote for to continue this border invasion that has done irreparable harm to the country? 10 million illegals invading the country with the help of this president and his policies. 2 million of those, the very dangerous criminal gotaways, the ones who don't surrender for all the free health care, free social services, free travel, free education, free housing, with that are just released in the interior of our country. That's 8 million. Then you get the 2 million that are the most dangerous individuals. How
Yeah,
could anyone
Congressman.
vote for this record high inflation? The average American is paying $1,000 a month, average American family, more for the essentials, just for groceries and housing and utilities and gas prices than they were before this president got into office. So I don't know how it could even be close. So I certainly believe that President Trump will win, and hopefully he'll win handily.
Well, I'm curious about what's changed in your position on that, because you mentioned immigration and inflation, certainly two concerns that voters have. But you were once recorded saying that Trump, quote, might be the only person that can lose to Joe Biden if he's the nominee. Are you still worried about that?
President Trump was the best president of my lifetime. I've said that many times. I've always said that I would enthusiastically support him if he was our nominee, and I would do everything I could to help him get elected, as I did in
Right, but the
2020.
heart of the
I expected
matter.
when I first I expected when I first got elected in 2020 that I'd be serving with the Trump presidency. I regret that that didn't happen, of course. Going to do everything I can to make my third term a presidency where I can work with him. And frankly, it was the House Freedom Caucus who were his greatest allies, his greatest friends when during his first term. And certainly we will be again. I look forward to having a close working relationship with him and doing everything we can to reverse the harm that's been done by this president. Now, the time for comparing President Trump to other candidates is over. We're united behind President Trump. I think you'll see that demonstrated, perhaps not as strongly in New Hampshire, just because you're going to have Democrats there voting for Nikki Haley. But when we get to, I think he's going to win New Hampshire anyway, but I certainly think he's going to win very handily in South Carolina and just sail going
Well,
forward.
let me stop you there, because there's been a lot of confusion sown about who can vote tomorrow in New Hampshire. The Republican governor has made clear, if you have not changed your registration in the last 6 months since October, it's Republicans and independents who will be voting tomorrow, not Democrats. But you previously said, I'm just curious because I don't really feel like I'm getting an answer on what has changed in your thinking. Because you said, I can't stand by and watch and then regret that we nominated Trump. So what makes you feel differently now about how he'll fare in a general election matchup against President Biden?
Well, I endorsed Governor DeSantis back in May. I said I thought he's a model governor for the country. I thought he was an outstanding governor. I also said many times President Trump's the best president of my lifetime. So I spent 7 or 8 months in support of Governor DeSantis. Now is the time to turn the page and support President Trump. Again, I said I would unequivocally support him if he was the nominee, enthusiastically so, as I did in 2016 and 2020. He's the best hope for America today. He is going to be the nominee. He did a great job his first term. I think he'll do an even better job his
Congressman,
second
let
term.
me ask you because you mentioned multiple times the House Freedom Caucus, an influential conservative group, obviously, that you chair. But you're facing a primary challenger right now in your race. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman, has just endorsed him, saying that you're, as she, and I'm quoting her now, these aren't my words, she said, "You're angry, disloyal MAGA traitor who was caught on camera trashing President Trump." When it comes to your party, what do you think is more important? Is it your conservative record or your support for Donald Trump?
Well, the last part of that is demonstrably false. I've never been caught on camera because I've never done it trashing President Trump. There's a reason why we kicked Marjorie Taylor Greene out of the Freedom Caucus last summer. So she's a disgruntled former member who has an axe to grind. She has some kind of deep-seated hatred towards the Freedom Caucus now. She's been exposed as the fraud and the liar that she
Okay,
is.
but Congressman,
She's upset because Kevin McCarthy was removed as Speaker, and she has a personal vendetta against people like me who didn't support Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. In terms of me having a primary challenge, I'm not entitled to the nomination. I had to earn it in 2020. I had to earn it in 2022. I have to earn it in 2024. And I believe the people of the 5th District won't let this seat be bought by allies of the former Speaker, by the swamp creatures from
okay,
DC
but can
and
I say
California.
one thing because you don't like you and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene don't see eye to eye, but you are on camera very critical of Donald Trump, and it caused Trump's campaign manager to claim that you wouldn't be electable when they were done with
video
you.
was created by a campaign opponent who sliced it up and edited it to take out the complimentary praise statements that I said about President Trump. It's a highly edited video provided by a campaign operative for my
So you
opponent.
didn't say those
So it
things
should
that
be.
you're on camera saying? I mean, you're on camera.
If you take sentences and you take part of the sentence out and you get a different conclusion from that sentence or a different inference from that sentence.
I want everyone who's watching to see what it was that you said, and because it is edited. There's moments where it says Congressman Bob Good says this,
There's
feels
stops
this.
and
But let
starts.
me just
There's
play a
stops and
moment of
starts
that
in
so
the
everyone
video.
can
It is
see
an edited video.
what's actually on camera.
I decided to endorse DeSantis in May because I thought, you know what, I can't sit by and watch and then regret that we nominated Trump.
You are on camera saying those things, Congressman.
Well, but that's part of a larger sentence, a larger conversation that's been edited out, and it takes out the part where I praise President Trump and say that he's the greatest president of my lifetime, and that I don't criticize President Trump. I'm just supporting Governor DeSantis, and explaining to someone who was asking me, well, why did you make that endorsement decision? And I'm explaining that to them, that I thought in the battleground states that Governor DeSantis would give us a better chance to win. Obviously, that decision has been made by the voters, the Republican voters across the country are overwhelmingly supporting President Trump, and I support President Trump as well.
Yeah, well, you do say on camera that you don't want to say those things publicly, but you say them privately. It is notable to hear you say there, though, that you thought
The point of
DeSantis
that,
would
no,
be more effective.
the context of how that was said was I don't criticize President Trump publicly. If somebody asks me privately to answer a question on an issue comparison, I'm going to do that. But the point that I was making is that I'm for Governor DeSantis. I was
But are
not
you
against President
acknowledging
Trump.
that you say things differently publicly than privately? That's what your answer there sounded like,
No,
Congressman.
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But, okay. Congressman Bob Good, I really appreciate your time explaining how this went from an endorsement of Governor DeSantis to now your endorsement of Donald Trump. We appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on The Source.